Why is American food trash? Hotel edition. If you compare the food at any normal American chain hotel, I won't throw anyone under the bus, but it can be just any general chain, and compare that to, let's say, a hotel's food in Europe, the food selection and the quality of that food is wildly different. Essentially, America is poisoning you, and Germany, for example, which is where I went recently on a trip, is like the pinnacle of happiness via food, because food is a form of medicine. So I think a lot of people think that just because your food tastes good, it is okay to eat. But the truth is, a lot of American food is terrible for you. And that goes all the way down to the actual ingredients. I didn't always know that American food was literal trash. It's taken me many, many years to kind of go through this health journey of what I understand to be as healthy food. And what's really interesting is the hotel system in the US is a very clear reflection of where Americans in American society views our food in terms of importance and in terms of medicine, which is at like a zero, I would say. If you go to any chain in America, it's essentially very, very processed foods that they offer, whether it's like you can use the waffle maker or they have very processed biscuits or bread products that are just not made with good quality. The eggs are not really real eggs, they're very, very processed. The bacon is like microwavable bacon. Like it's just not good quality at the end of the day. And what I also find really interesting at American hotels is there's just not a big selection of protein. My diet at this point is very carnivore based when I go to Europe, because the quality of the food, the ingredients that they use to make that food is just of higher quality, that I will eat bread products. But in the US, I'm very, very clean eating. I don't eat any seed oils, I don't eat gluten, I don't eat sugar. But even if I did, you can still compare the two. And there's a very, very stark difference that is really alarming and affecting your health. Essentially, sugar is pumped into every single thing that people eat in America. Look at the ingredients of what you eat. This is at hotels and also just in your day to day life at the grocery store. You would be astonished how much of our food has sugar in it. You can even look at, let's say, sausages, like breakfast sausages, and they'll have either like corn syrup or some kind of sugar based product in there to make it taste better. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, sugar is extremely addictive. Like, I personally really struggle to have just like a little bit of sugar. It's not really sustainable for me. And so I think people sometimes believe that if you decrease your sugar, like cane sugar specifically, that you're doing good. And you are doing good, but what you forget to realize is that even your waffles or your pancakes, any of those types of carbohydrates can be broken down into sugars. And so your body doesn't necessarily know the difference. And also, the amount of gluten that is in our bread products here in America is just, it makes me really, really sick. And so I have actually taken gluten, I would say gluten and sugar out of my diet, sometimes dairy, but for sure gluten and sugar. And I've seen a huge change in my health. Essentially, removing gluten from my diet, I have better focus, I've slimmed down quite a bit, I have more energy. And I think that's really interesting when we're talking about health, whether it's like physical health or mental health. But I think gluten and sugar can have a huge impact on your ability to live a good life in terms of health and focus and mental like stability. If I have gluten or sugar, I literally have ADD. So I would imagine that a lot of children suffering from ADD would benefit from having a no sugar diet. But unfortunately, as American society, we just prescribe drugs to fix people's attention to whatever their child, if they can't focus in school, where there's a holistic solution to that. I also feel like in European cultures, like I don't know that as many Europeans have such a high addiction for sugar, but I know that like sugar is not in every single like meal like it is in America. I mean, I just think it's crazy that all of our food, even the stuff that you wouldn't realize, like like breakfast sausages, has some sort of sugar. So when you're comparing the two, I did notice that in Germany, for example, like I said, where I went to a small town in the German Alps to have a standard breakfast. This is not a glamorous hotel, but their quality of food, which is just extremely normal, is just better than any American hotel I've ever been into. Seriously. Like you could tell that all the croissants and bread products were made fresh. They had pretzels and that's a big part of their culture in Germany is a lot of these like bread products, but they didn't make me sick. And I was able to kind of tell that because I've removed gluten from my diet, so that when it's reintroduced, essentially in America, I can immediately within about 24 hours feel the effect of that gluten on my body. I swell up like a big balloon. I can't focus. I can't think. I have all these mood swings, which like you wouldn't notice unless you've removed it for about, I would say, a month to 3 months to really feel the effects of removing gluten, of removing sugar, like to the point where it's going to change your life. And then in Germany, when I had these like bread products, it just doesn't weigh me down as much. It takes like a lot more consistent eating of the bread products there to really feel anything similar to the level that the American food does have. And I just find it really interesting that food is such a large part of the culture there that they, take some of that really, really seriously. A lot of ingredients are actually banned in Europe that are not banned in the US. And I think it's partly the government's fault, it's partly companies, and it's partly like the individual's fault for not being invested, I think, in your life to read the back of a label on whatever kind of food that you're putting in your body. We are just so disconnected from, I feel like, our intuition, from our actual health. We're just distracted by our phones or entertainment, the TV. There's just so many things going on in the US that like we don't have connection with other people, we don't have connection with ourselves, and it's making us sick. Like you could literally look around America and I would say a high percentage of people are overweight and unhealthy. And that's not like in a body shaming kind of way. That's in a health kind of focused statement where people don't seem to remember until it's too late that there are a lot of issues that come with being with not eating right. And it sucks because I'm so, and I will openly admit this, I'm so like addicted to sugar that I really can't just have a little. I will, like, if you gave me a box of Oreos, I'm not going to have just two Oreos. I'm going to eat it until I'm sick. And that's not cool. That's not good for me. And that's something I noticed in Germany that I wouldn't necessarily. I feel like I didn't eat until I was sick. The food just didn't make me sick like it does in the US. And there's all these health problems that are just coming from this that people are just so unaware of. I think people take it really personally here in the US. They're like, our food isn't trash, but it is. And I mean that on a quality standpoint. Like the actual ingredients are making you sick. They're full of filler, they're full of corn syrup and sugar, and it's just like nothing is real. When I went to Germany, there was as much of a selection in bread products as there was in protein. So there was like, like sausages and eggs, hard boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, meat slices, cheese slices, veggies, and of course, bread products. But at least there was like an option to choose between all different selections. If you go to a chain hotel in America, it's slop one way or another, or it's like packaged and packaged like a crustable or They just have very few fresh foods. The bacon, the eggs, like it's none of it is fresh. Whereas like you can tell the eggs in this little hotel that I went to in Germany is fresh. You can tell that the bread was made fresh that day because you can see in the back that they're like working in the kitchen, like rolling and making these croissants. But that would just never happen in the US. And it's not that it can't happen, it's that we are disconnected from our health here in the US, and we aren't like willing to take a good hard look at ourselves and say, let's look at our bodies, which is a telltale sign of your health, your skin, your weight, like your mental focus. Those are all like tied to your general health. You would say, I don't think we're doing that great. Like, I think something's fundamentally wrong with our food system. And, in Europe and especially like Italy, I think is very, very strict on the type of food that they allow there, that they've not only banned certain ingredients, but they've banned like lab grown meat and things like that. Because I feel like a lot of European cultures are just really tied to food as medicine, and America is not. So yeah, when I went to Germany, I just had such an astounding experience realizing that the food in America is not good for you, that you don't have to go to a fancy hotel in Europe to experience quality food. It is really and truly just the average standard. Like the hotel I stayed in was maybe like 117 euro. Where if I go to a hotel in America that's, let's say, 250 American dollars, I'm still getting slop for breakfast. Like if I'm lucky in a chain, they'll make a fresh omelet. And that is something I really look for like in America. For example, Embassy Suites will make you an omelet on demand. So anytime I'm traveling for work, which is quite often because I'm in sales, I do try to stay at the Embassy Suites because at least I know there's fresh or at least somewhat fresh ingredients when it comes to making an omelet that you're just not going to find at most other chains. And so I do worry about the general food options here in America, where if our hotels are full of shit, it's like, well, what are people buying at the grocery stores? And another thing too is you'll think like, oh, I'm going to a good restaurant, like they're having high end quality ingredients, but that's not necessarily true. Just because food tastes good and is presented nicely doesn't 110% mean that it's going to be of good quality. I'm from Virginia. I live in Tennessee. And for example, Southern culture has very, very good tasting food. We do put a lot of sugar into our traditional foods. So that would kind of be an indicator that just because it tastes good doesn't mean it's good for you. I'm not even going to go into it, but the point is that we really have to start looking at our food and realizing that what we're accepting here in America is trash. A lot of areas that are poverty stricken don't even have access to fresh vegetables or fresh meat. And so they're essentially eating foods that are all packaged and processed. And that is just not good for your health. So you may think, oh, well, it's not affecting me now. But when you're older and it starts impacting your health, your ability to move, it causes a lot of other like issues in your body systemically. You want to start thinking about that now. And I know that's just not a popular opinion, and people are going to feel some kind of way about me bringing this to your attention. But if you can go to Germany and pay for a hotel, essentially budget hotel, which is about, like I said, 100 and let's say 17 euro, and get a better breakfast, better quality, better ingredient breakfast at your average hotel any day of the week compared to higher end or middle end hotels in America, like something is just wrong fundamentally. And so I really want to challenge you to not react to this video in a negative way, but take some time to learn about what you're actually eating. You will be very surprised. One other thing you should think about is seed oils. I'm not going to go to it in detail here today, but seed oils will make me super, super sick. I can tell if something was cooked with a seed oil, I will get really, really sick. I'll get a headache, just like if I have sugar or gluten. And no one has to tell me if anything's in it. Because I've removed these things from my diet, which unfortunately does leave me to a very, very limited diet, I can tell if I've had like been to a restaurant where, that was used in one of their dishes that I ate. And I feel like if you go, let's say, to Italy, their olive oil is going to be made with real olive oil. But if you're eating here in the US, most of the cooks, even in high end restaurants, are going to use oils that are not either 100% olive oil, like they're not sourced 100% from just an olive product, but they're going to have vegetable oil or rapeseed oil or, any type of oil that's just not good for you. But because it's so common and made like normalized, that we don't question it. And at some point, you're going to have to take control of your life and question what you're putting into your body as much as what you're putting into your mind. So I hope this video doesn't offend you too much, but I do want to challenge you to, next time you go grocery shopping, read the ingredients of what you're eating. And when you go to your hotel next, especially if it's in the US, take a look at your food selection. How much of that has been either like frozen and thawed out and just warmed up for your consumption, or is very, very processed in nature? I would like to challenge anyone to give me the name of a hotel that is serving fresh food. I would be floored to hear it. And I'm talking about like a normal chain hotel. So please take a moment to take your health into your own control, into your own hands, and do yourself a favor and start taking your health seriously, reading the ingredients of the food that you're eating every single day, and choose hotels that actually have fresh food available, because you are going to end up super sick when you're older. And American food is trash.